Hi, today I want to look at a game where I'm playing black against an IM under the alias StepByStep. This was a 5-minute auto-pairing game on the Internet Chess Club, played on the 4th of November 2009. My opponent's rating is 2,517 and my rating is 2,299. In this position, white is a pawn up. Knight c5 was best, when bishop takes c5, d takes c5, queen takes c5 check, bishop f2, queen c7, and now white is better after the strong move knight c6. For example, if bishop takes c6, queen c2, white wins the bishop back due to the pin. He has a clear advantage with the resulting 2 bishops versus 2 knights endgame after knight fd5, queen takes c6, queen takes c6, bishop takes c6, knight c4, bishop d4. Rybka judges that white has an advantage of 0.89 pawns. Instead, my opponent played the bad move bishop d2. Black, despite being a pawn down, now gains the upper hand. I invaded with queen c2. The immediate threat is to either win the knight on b3 or the b pawn. Rybka tells me that black has a slight advantage. And now my opponent played queen d3. Knight c5 was also possible. And now black should play queen takes b2. Bishop takes c5 is not good, since d takes c5, queen takes c5 check, queen e3 is good for white, as his a pawn is very strong and black's b pawn is weak. If black plays knight takes a4, exploiting the pin on the knight, white can continue queen takes c5, knight takes c5, bishop takes b4, with a big advantage in the resulting endgame. Now black will have great difficulty dealing with the b pawn. White's 2 bishops are also more mobile than black's bishop and knight. That means black should play queen takes b2, back on move 26. Queen e3, bishop d6, bishop c1, queen a2. White's pieces are all awkwardly placed. Black has an edge, particularly with his dangerous looking b pawn. In the game, my opponent played back on move 26, queen d3. And I took the b pawn, queen takes b2. Now my opponent played knight c4. White plays inaccurately under pressure. And now I win a pawn, bishop takes c4, bishop takes c4, knight takes a4. And now I've won my second pawn, and I'm a pawn up from the original position. g4, knight c3, g5. White's kingside pawn storm cannot be dangerous, as it is not backed up by any pieces. Knight fd5. And now black's knight lands on this wonderful square d5, where it cannot be dislodged. h4, queen b1 check. Actually, knight b6 maintaining the tension may have been better. For example, h5, bishop d6, g6, and white's attack really isn't going anywhere here. Knight takes c4, g takes h7 check, king h8, queen takes c4, queen c2. Black is winning. White's attack is not going anywhere, and his king is very weak. But in the game, I played queen b1 check, which is not particularly accurate, but it does have the advantage of immediately taking the sting out of white's potential attack by trading off the queens. Queen takes b1, knight takes b1. The only person who could be better here is black, which is part of the reason why I traded off queens. Bishop takes d5, and now I played e takes d5, which is a mistake. Black can actually play the Zwischenzug, or in-between move, knight takes d2 here, which would have won the game. For example, knight takes d2, e takes d5. The bishop is far superior to the knight in this endgame, since it can travel long distances very quickly. And since play could be on the queen side and the king side, the bishop is superior. If the play was just on one side of the board, for example the king side, then the knight has the advantage. So in this position, black has a winning advantage quite easily, especially since white's pawns are far advanced and weak. And black has like clear paths for his bishop into f4 and g3 and the like. Okay, but in the game I played 33, e takes d5, which is a mistake, but black is still better. But the win is not clear cut now. Bishop e1, bishop d6, king f1, knight a3, king e2, knight c4, king d3, f6. And now I offer a pawn trade on the king side. I want to open it up so that my king can go through with king f7, king g6, and king f5. Now my opponent played knight c5, and I played bishop takes c5, which I felt was a rather strange move after the game. F takes g5, h takes g5, knight e5 check is interesting, with the idea that after d takes e5, bishop takes c5, black has a better position. f4, g6, bishop d2, b3, bishop c1, bishop b4. Black is probably winning now. I say probably because there are many nuances in this type of position that could affect the outcome. The d-pawn is invulnerable. For example, after king d4, black can make use of the deflection tactic bishop d2, and now white can't take because black will make a queen. So white has to play bishop b2, bishop takes f4, king takes d5, bishop takes g5, and now white can either play e6, king f8, king c4, king e7, king takes b3, king takes e6, which is winning for black, or he can play king e6 with the idea of playing king d7 and supporting the advance of his pawn. But black just responds h5, king d7, h4, e6, h3, bishop e5, and now black has pawns on both wings, b2, and the white bishop is overwhelmed. It is well known that a bishop defends well on one diagonal, but not on two. And yeah, black wins easily. Bishop takes b2, h2, and now white's pawn doesn't really go anywhere. Black can just take it and then make a new queen. Okay, so I should have played f takes g5. Back on move 38, I actually played bishop takes c5 during the game. D takes c5, b3, g takes h6, g takes h6, bishop c3, king f7, c6. And now there is no clear win for black. King e6, c7, king d7, bishop takes f6, king takes c7. And now my opponent played f4, which was inaccurate. King c3 was more accurate. b2, king c2, and white looks to be able to draw this position rather easily. Black will have much trouble trying to make progress. In the game, my opponent played 45 f4, king d7, f5, and now is black's chance. After knight d6, black can actually obtain good chances of winning. And now king c3 is obviously bad due to knight e4 check, so bishop b2. And now knight takes f5, h5, knight g3, h6, knight e4. Black has the key squares covered, so white cannot take the b3 pawn. And now he can try to convert his extra 2 pawns material. In the game, instead of playing the better knight d6, I played king e8, king c3, b2, king c2, king f7, bishop d4. And now I played knight d6. Maybe h5, king b1, knight d6, king takes b2, knight takes f5, bishop f2, king e6 was a line worth going for. Black has some chances to win, but according to my computer, he doesn't have a clear win. In the game, I played 49 knight d6, f6, knight f5, bishop takes b2, knight takes h4, king d3, knight f5, king e2. And now I played king e6. h5 isn't much better. After bishop e5, king e6, king f2, and now black cannot take the bishop because of f7. So knight d6, bishop a1, knight e4 check, king e3, knight takes f6, king f4. And now black will find it very hard to keep both pawns, and he will probably lose at least one while trying to advance them, and then white will draw easily. In the game, I played 53 king e6, king f3, h5, king f4, knight d6, king g5, knight e4 check, king takes h5, knight takes f6 check, king g5. And this is now easily drawn. Whenever black will try to advance his pawn, white will simply sacrifice his bishop for it, and it will be an easy draw. I eventually ran out of time on move 118, but white has no material to checkmate. White had no material to checkmate, so it was a draw.